All right, so AIM 4.8 should be in your notebooks. How did imperialism affect China? We just talked about some things from the do now. Some people mentioned they left behind like industry. Uh, some people might prefer to be conquered if their old style of government was kind of unacceptable. So away we go, imperialism in China. All right, I'll give you a second here. A lot of notes. Okay, so during the course of imperialism, Britain, part of the idea here is that Britain needs a market to sell their manufactured goods, right? And sell goods, period, in order to get rich. China represents that market. China is most attractive because of the population, the number of people that live there. Every citizen's a customer, potentially. As of today, China is the most populous country on planet Earth. There's 2.2 billion people living in China. 1 out of every 3 people on Earth is in China. That's a staggering percentage. So from the perspective of kind of a market for goods, China is a dream. So Britain extends their empire to China. They're selling manufactured goods and a variety of other things. But one of the things they like to sell a lot of is opium. Opium is a drug derived from the poppy plant. Opium is the base substance from which heroin and all other opiate painkillers and things like that are derived from, morphine, etc., etc. So opium is kind of the base chemical that all of that stuff comes from. Britain was selling a lot of opium in China. The Chinese government recognized that the opium was kind of poisoning their people and wanted very badly for the British to stop selling opium in China. Britain refused. Business was booming. And the Chinese and the British eventually go to war over it. All right, I'll give you a second here. So Britain and China go to war over the sale of opium. Fast forward to the end, Britain wins. It won't be for a while until an Asian country can kind of stand up to a European superpower. That will happen eventually, and it will be Japan. But we'll get to that. But for now, Asia does not possess the technological kind of advancements that are found in Europe and are kind of unable to compete militarily with European superpowers, and the Opium War is another example of that. So Britain wins the Opium Wars and forces China to sign what's called the Treaty of Nanking or the Treaty of Nanjing. You will see it referred to as either. Nanking and Nanjing are the same thing. It is the city in China where this treaty was signed. Basically what it does is it acknowledges the fact that Britain has the right to establish ports and spheres of influence throughout China. These are basically areas that are under the economic control of Britain, and it is all designed to facilitate trade. It is designed to collect raw materials, and it is designed to kind of distribute manufactured goods for profit for the British. This is the time period during which Hong Kong becomes British. And it was only up until the 90s that the city of Hong Kong was still under the administration of the British government. So we saw the lasting effects of this all the way up until the 1990s. This treaty was still in effect, at least some parts of it. So China is unable to resist British influence. Britain sets up spheres of economic control called spheres of influence, and China is just kind of relegated to this kind of subservient role when it comes to Britain, and Britain is in charge of the Chinese economy by and large. Needless to say, this does not sit well with some people in China. So I'll give you a second here. So part of the story in India was that the Indian people saw Britain controlling their entire economy and began to resent them. And that British control of Indian society created a sense of nationalism amongst the Indian people. And it is that sense of nationalism amongst the Indian people that led to the Sepoy Mutiny from the last lesson you guys did during your asynchronous assignment. This is a similar kind of story. The British domination of Chinese economy creates resentment amongst the Chinese people, and it kind of fosters this sense of nationalism amongst the Chinese that leads them to kind of team up in an attempt to kind of eliminate the foreign influence in China. And that's a big part of, of what's going on here. So the first example of that is called the Boxer Rebellion. Essentially, a bunch of people that end up being called Boxers, team up and begin to systematically kill foreigners in an attempt to retake control of China and remove it from British influence. They're called Boxers because they were actually using martial arts, and the British had never seen martial arts before and thought they were boxing. So the British called them Boxers. But it is the sense of nationalism that is created within China that brings these people to the forefront. So the resentment of these people for Britain kind of controlling their economy and their society is what brings this about. And you also have what's called the Taiping Rebellion, which is a peasant movement that demanded kind of more rights for peasants, equal treatment, property rights, etc. So you're seeing in more than one place now, India and now in China, that British domination, foreign influence, is creating resentment amongst those populations, and those populations are fighting back to retake control of their own destiny. That is the common thread that exists here. And this is why nationalism is just as big a focus of this unit as imperialism. It is the imperialism that causes nationalism. So they go, in this particular case, they're kind of going hand in hand here.